We prepare our security needs according to the polling stations where we feel there's a need for security, and the Inspector General of Police then together with his commanders prepare a deployment plan, and they deploy officers according to that need.
Election observation or elections is a very specialized area. So you need to engage with it for some time to build expertise. Even in terms of visibility, there's no way you can create visibility for an institution that is formed and then operates for 4 months and disperses. 5 years down the line, or in the case of a referendum, where maybe 2 years down the line, then you form another outfit. Then you see there's a problem. First of all, you cannot get the visibility. Even the staff working in this institution that form the domestic observation initiative cannot even gain the expertise to engage with these issues properly. So you could say it has been ineffective historically because of the manner in which you have been approaching it. And that's what we want to change through ELOG.
As the Election Observation Group, we have identified 7 thematic areas or 7 processes within the electoral process that we think are critical to be observed in the pre-election environment. And this include aspects like thematic areas or 7 processes within the electoral process that we think are critical to be observed in the pre-election environment. And this include aspects like
Mcheza from YouTube inamaanisha inaweza kutokea za kwetu.
observing political and campaign financing, the implementation of the Political Parties Act, media monitoring, how the media is covering the election period, how various institutions and actors are participating within the electoral process, including the conduct of political parties and other actors during the campaign.
We are dealing with reporting issues around long-term observation, and we have our tools.
Before an observer is deployed to the polling station, a lot of rigorous work goes into preparing them, such that the aspect of quality control is undertaken from the time we recruit the observer. At the recruitment level, and of course being a non-partisan citizen observer group, we recruit observers that are in no way partisan or are in no way aligned to any of the political party.
We have people on the ground, what we are calling long-term observers, so that at least you keep track on development on the ground. If things are boil over, you know how to act.
Actually, as a long-term observer in Mombasa County, makes most experience here. People in Mombasa County, it's like they had fear in their heart that there won't be an election.
Stories za incidents bado hazijaanza kutokezea. So unaenda pale kwa meeting, una take ile kitu ambayo iko hapo inaendelea, ukikuja nyumbani ndo unakuja ku write down.
We have even a peace component where we have set up an advisory and intervention panel that can intervene if things boil over with the various protagonists. And fourthly, we are now employing technology. We employed parallel vote tabulation for the first time during the referendum, and we intend to do it during the election, so that we can comment on the process on real time, from when the polling stations open, and eventually do a projection of the results, so that if there's tampering, then we can at least detect it and say these are not the true reflections of the vote as I was captured by our observer. So we put in place a number of mechanisms that will make a difference in our view compared to what happened or transpired in 2007.
PVT is a scientific methodology for observing elections. It goes by various other names, depending on which jurisdiction it's being implemented. Some of them call it a quick count, others call it a swift count, others call it a rapid assessment of the electoral process. It's essentially a methodology that relies on the use of statistics, database, and of course the use of the human observer. In terms of the 2013 election observation preparedness, what ELOC has done is make provision for utilizing PVT as one of the methodologies for election day observation, that of course complementing the work of general observers.
PVT comes in handy to play that role of providing independent scrutiny, but also independent safeguard to that process, but also independent verification of the outcome itself. And this is why PVT will be very, very essential. PVT is useful to citizens because it secures citizens' right to vote, but also enables security of a fair electoral process and outcome. So that is the guarantee that we can get when we use PVT. And that is the significance why PVT in these forthcoming elections is something that we, as citizens of Kenya, must look to and rely on and ask for and insist on.
These elections are very important. They are a milestone in Kenya's democratic development. We've been trying to transit into a democracy for the past 20 years, and we have had a false start. If we manage these elections properly and get a popularly elected president, then we'll say Kenya has transited into a democracy for the first time. For the first time since the introduction of multi-party democracy.
Kenyans have every reason to feel confident about this commission delivering the right kind of services through the National Police Service, and particularly under the command of the new Inspector General. A very vibrant personality, a well-experienced person, a person who also is very well grounded in the legal issues when it comes to the functioning of the police.
The Commission has prepared adequately for this election. We have employed all the staff that we need to employ for the Secretariat. We have requested the funding we require to conduct the election. Although we didn't get all that we required, at least we have been given sufficient resources to conduct both the general election and also the runoff, if there's going to be one. We have classified the stations. We have got about 33,000 polling stations. Some stations may have maybe 450 voters per stream. Others may have maybe up to 700, depending on the density of the area. And so we have already gazetted all the returning officers from the county elections to the constituency. And these are going to be the key guys who are going to work for the Commission and announce the winners of the elections in all the elections that we're going to hold. My message to all Kenyans is that as we go for the final leg of this election process, that they must maintain peace. I can assure them on behalf of the Commission that we are going to put our best foot forward and conduct a credible and a transparent election. They will be able to believe in the results that we are going to announce. All the will of the people of Kenya will be reflected in the results we are going to announce. We are going to make sure that the media have access to all our results transmission and they can transmit to Kenyans and even online. And so I want to assure them that the Electoral Commission will take its part and make sure elections are conducted very professionally and very efficiently.
We cannot accept to promote violence. So for me, absence of violence is a first sign of wanting peace. And so we must appreciate that where this has happened, then I'm challenging all Kenyans, those who have caused this spirit of hatred and killings of one another, to come out and ask for forgiveness.
Peace is very essential for our progress, and I urge all Kenyan citizens to really go for peace.
But whatever he's doing here is whatever happening on the other side. I don't know.
Meet Dylan, who's
with us tonight on sign language. Let's get this show on the road. And tonight, embattled High Court Judge Chitembe is staring at the
So, my name is Mule Musau. I'm the National Coordinator for the Elections Observation Group currently. And on the occasion that the Elections Observation Group is celebrating its 10th year, having come into office in April of 2010, just before the referendum, I wanted to share my experiences about the platform, what my experiences are, my personal experiences within the ELOG fraternity, the interactions that we have, some of the challenges, a few challenges that we've been having, and looking forward where I hope that ELOG will be headed. I came in as part of a core team that was mobilized to support the election observation platform, which had just been founded. That was in March in 2010. So we were part of a technical team that went on to form the first secretariat that ran the platform, and that has run the platform over the last 10 years. I joined as part of what we were calling the parallel vote tabulation core team that prepared the deployment of the PVT methodology in the 2010 referendum. Suffice it to say that the observation of the 2010 referendum was a very successful undertaking by ELOG. It was the first major activity that ELOG was involved in. We deployed over 10,000 observers who were observers. We had just under 1,000 a number of issues which were affecting the country at that particular time. Since 2013, ELOG has continued, since it had been established as a permanent observation platform. We've continued observing elections using the electoral cycle approach, despite, of course, earlier instances where funding was a problem. It is still a problem even as we speak. But we managed to patch up in between the elections to be able to observe one elections here. There were some times that we would just sit in the office without doing anything, basically just browsing to see whether there would be any activity that we could be able to do, an electoral, a by-election here, another election somewhere else. But cumulatively, over the years, because we went on to observe the 2013 elections, we also went on to observe the 2017 general elections, which were historic in their nature, in the fact that we had two elections at the presidency level after disputes led to a nullification by the Supreme Court of the first election. So cumulatively, we've been able to train more than 25,000 citizen election monitors who are spread all over the country. These observers include teachers, they include farmers, peasants, they include young people who just left school who were able to join the platform. But it also includes some very well-educated individuals, volunteers who have participated in our programs as observers, as supervisors, and otherwise. And that forms a kind of a community of practice as far as Kenyans citizens are concerned, and of course it is a way in which knowledge around electoral processes has been shared across the country. That is a major success by ELOG, to have trained this number of people, and the ELOG institution itself has also from the initial 5 members who formed ELOG. It's grown to have 10 steering committee members currently, with 6 members who are thematic, but many more who are applying to participate in the processes as we speak. So it is grown in stature, it is grown institution-wise, it is also grown in terms of membership, but more importantly, it has trained quite a number of Kenyans out there to be able to be vigilant on electoral process, and we've kept our presence in the country over the last 10 years. In terms of other affiliations that ELOG has been able to have, is that we have been able to we've been able to have quite a number of affiliations. We are not only observed in the country, but we have also gone on to observe regional elections. We formed in 2013, ELOG was among the members who pioneered the Eastern Horn of Africa Election Observers Network, called EHON, which is represents citizen election platforms in the East and Horn of Africa region. We have Sudan and South Sudan, Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya being represented by various organizations. And we also have Burundi, Rwanda, and Eritrea and Ethiopia holding observer status in the formation. And through this outfit, we were able to observe the 2015 Tanzanian elections as a team from the mission, the first time a mission of citizen election observers were able to be mobilized to observe a regional election. But we have also participated effectively in quite a number of other elections. The inaugural elections in South Sudan in 2011, we were able to observe the processes in Kenya, and we have also been able to send a number of our expert members, because the accumulated knowledge, technical expertise in terms of conducting elections, deployment of teams, training of teams within the ELOG Secretariat and within its ranks, has been a useful tool to deploy in different parts of the continent, notably in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Uganda, Tanzania, as well as in Zambia, Zimbabwe, and including Malawi. So We have had a number of personnel who've gone to those different countries to share their expertise with other citizen election observer groups or organizations that are needed to be supported. So that's a major milestone that has been achieved by the Election Observation Group. And so what does the future portend as far as the Election Observation Group is concerned? Of course, we are seeing increasingly a lot of challenges which are coming through in terms of observing modern elections. At the moment, we've had elections now which are driven by technology. Elections are also increasingly being held in very fluid environments where changes quickly occur. We have a lot of disputes which are emerging. The last two elections, for instance, in Kenya, we've seen dispute in terms of the presidential election. Second one in 2017, culminating in a nullification of the initial election and forcing the election management body to hold new fresh elections. So there have been quite a number of challenges. The aspects or the incidences of rigging elections in the continent have kept moving from one thing to the other. We have tried to keep a pace with some of those things, including some of the changes which have been done by the commissions. For instance, the use of biometric voter registers to be able to register voters. So we've been able to try to keep a pace with much of that development, although there's still a lot of work which needs to be done. So in the future, of course, we are hoping that ELOG and other citizen election observation platforms in the continent will continue to grow in stature, will build their capacity as far as these new developments are concerned, will become much more closer to the people. The aim of domestic election observation just to ensure that processes pass the integrity test, so that the new leadership that assumes the mantle in a country is one that has gone through a process in which there was clear and credible and predictable processes. I thank you. We'll be, of course, we'll continue comparing notes in terms of what the future portends in terms of election observation, but that's it for now.
India. Lakini nganya play music listen to.
Please, there's a lot of irregulars. We are hearing nothing, particularly me, I'm hearing nothing. Hello. Hello. We are hearing nothing, completely nothing.
We are hearing nothing. We don't hear anything.
What's happening? At least when Mule Musau, at least you will be clear. But we are getting nothing for sure.
Maybe the meeting is on recession. We might not know. Let them comment.
Then they should let us know. Oh.
I can see a cup of tea.
As the meeting started, surely.
Yeah, anything.
Abera, how are you? Are you okay? Yeah. I'm seeing the meeting on the recession. What is happening?
We are not hearing anything.
Okay, let's wait from them. Just be patient.
Davo.
Okay.
Davo.
Yes,
Davo.
Isabel.
Can you?
Okay.
And this meeting was supposed to take for how long? Hello?
You're not hearing.
Somebody hearing me?
What's going on?
Hello,
Amen.
how are you?
Lepi,
Yes,
how are you?
Click up. Yes. Thanks. Ilikuwa imeenda kwa hiyo. Click ni kwenye click ya katikati. Rudi kwa Zoom.
Uko peke yako? Hello.
Yeah.
It's okay because nataka akusaidia vitu
All right, it is 9 a.m. As I promised earlier, we are set to begin. So, my name is Marcus again, the Senior Programs Manager here at the Elections Information Group, which is the Secretariat for EO. So, welcome once again to this meeting. Expect to have. So, like I promised earlier on, it's time for us to begin our conversation and discussions of the day. So, I would like to request all of us to rise and do our opening prayer in the form of the national anthem for our host country, that's Kenya, as well as the national anthem for East African community. It will be projected for us, so we can follow up. We can slowly come. you very much. We can all be seated. All right, so the next thing to do is evaluation action. The one which is the 11.12. Just the name, the country that is using, as well as the designation that you want to represent. So, the microphone. We have a microphone back. We do that, so we recognize that we are being joint question by
Civil Society Organizing Coalition for the Election.
Good morning, everyone. I'm representing ELO. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm representing from the government of the Constitutional Governance. Good morning, everyone. Becca Reda, and I'm representing the Citizens Coalition.
representing Alliance. Let's connect the first thing. Good morning, everyone. My name is
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jessica Keegan. I'm the election advisor for IRI based in Washington.
Hello, everyone. My name is Erin Kirstick, and I'm the Political Parties and Elections Associate at IRI as well, based in Washington.
Coordination, which has 106 members. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Anne Berry, Executive Director of Kenya, that's Executive Lawyers and Planning Chairperson of the
Good morning, everybody. South,
My name is Mango Pepita. I work for the Christian Churches Monitoring Group and I'm from Zambia.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ellen Dinani. I'm the Programs Director for the Zimbabwe Election Support Network. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
I was becoming scared. I thought the tables were assigned by countries. Kenya, all Kenya, Uganda, all Uganda. I found you this your table is fixed. I am James Nahai, and I am the national coordinator for national election in Sierra Leone. So it's like I am the Mulu in Europe.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Zahra Said. I work for South Sudanese Network for Democracy and Relations in South Sudan.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ash. I'm the Executive Director for Sudan Leadership based in
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm called James Okonjo. I work for South Sudan Network for Democracy and Election as the chairperson for Sundi. South Sudan. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lena Asami Kasioka. I'm representing Electoral Observation Group that is Kenya.
Good morning, Habari. My name is Isabella Batenga and I'm from Tanzania. I work with the youth there. I'm a founder of the NGO and coordinate young observers in Tanzania.
Good morning. My name is Memory Avenger. I work with an organization called Center for Minority-Based Development. Based here in Kenya. Good morning, everybody. I'm Jambo, Victor Orlando, representing Judicial Police Unit.
Good morning. My name is Joel Muta. I work for Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission with Coordination Committee as the chairperson to enhance youth participation in the electoral processes.
Good morning. My name is Harry Koshua with Transparency International.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sylvia Katwa and I'm from Zalendo Trust, Kenya, Eastern Kenya.
Good morning. Father Dilma, I have a consent from the committee. I'm presenting something that helps people to overcome conflicts, especially during elections. Thank you.
Morning, I'm Taylor Rotino, representing National Democratic Institute and the INP.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mary Kabiru. I represent the National Cohesion and Integration Commission.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. I'm Shani Zana from the
Thank you, and you have not introduced yourself, the one who is giving us the
My name is
right. And also we are joined by a team of Alvin, you are not. There are two gentlemen that were not introduced. In fact, we should start from there.
Good morning. My name is Ian Logach, Program Officer for Media Monitoring at Election Observation Group.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mosonya, IT Assistant.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Alvin Anyambu. I'm with IRI Program. Good
morning. I'm Anthony for the crowd.
Thank you, guys. Once again, we are joined by close to 60 online participants, as you can see. So for our participants online, because of time, we can't ask you to introduce yourselves, but know that we recognize your presence and we feel you as you participate in this conference. So we move to the agenda. Yes.
Can we also know the MC?
Oh yeah, I have. All right. My name is Marcus Agenga. I work for the Elections Observation Group as the Senior Programs Manager there. So, karibuni sana. I'd like us to go through the program just very briefly. For those who have it, you can have we are here for 2 days. So I would like us to go. The first day is today. So we will be expecting some welcoming remarks, two of our leaders. That is Anne Ireri, who is the chairperson of ELOC, but also from Jessica, who is the election integrity advisor at RI. And so they're both here in the room and they'll be able to welcome us officially to this meeting and start us off. After that, we'll be having an official opening remarks from Crispin, who is the chairperson of EON, that is East and Horn of Africa Election Observation Network. We already introduced himself earlier on. We were expecting the chairperson of our election management body, that is the IEBC, to be present to deliver his keynote address. And he won't be able to come today. He will be coming tomorrow morning. To be delivered tomorrow morning. Then we will then invite Mule Musau, who is the national coordinator of ELOC and the UN Secretariat, to be able to make a very brief presentation on the political economy analysis of the region that we are in today. And that will be followed by brief reports. We'll call them the situation reports from Ethiopia, from South Sudan, as well as from Kenya. Then Uganda. So we'll have 4 countries giving brief situation reports from their country. Then we will break, we'll see if we have some time. We could go to the next presentation by Henry Muguzi on money in elections, perspectives from East, West, and Southern Africa. And it will be moderated by Jessica. And then we will have respondents or discussions given to us by Dr. Kojo, as well as Helen from Testing. Then we expect we have some groups. I'm going to tell you how those groups will be done, but we'll have 2 groups to discuss a number of guidelines, as you can see them there. So the guidelines relate to the topic of the day, that is money in elections. So we'll have some group discussion around it, and we have provided some guiding questions. You need not to confine yourselves to these questions, they're just guides. If you have anything better, you could actually add them there. But what is important is that we stick to the topical issue, that is money in elections, and especially coming from our countries and how that has been a problem and how it's being addressed, or not addressed, as it were. Then we expect the groups to come back and make presentations, and that would then mark end of day 1. Tomorrow morning, tomorrow is our last day. We will have opening remarks, of course, now will be delivered by Regina Opondo, who is one of our members. And then we'll also slot in the chairperson of the IEBC to make the keynote address tomorrow morning when he arrives. Then we'll have the second presentation given to us by Patrick Kwak, who is the Senior Director Center for Global Impact at IRI. Then we'll have 3 discussants, that is Peter Kiyama from here in Kenya, Peter Manang'ombe from Zambia, and James Lahai from Sierra Leone, the Mule of Sierra Leone, as it is. Yeah. So then we, of course, will go for the second session of breakaway. Again, the topic will be essentially based on election violence and perspectives, again, from East, West, and Southern Africa. Again, like I said before, we don't need to confine ourselves to the proposed guidelines, but they're just guidelines to help us stick to the point. Then we'll have group presentation. We expect tomorrow that the EON members will issue a communique. Remember, our country, Kenya, our host country, is having elections in the next 95 days from today. We expect our elections. So the EON members will issue a press statement to address the Kenyan people, address the Kenyan electorate, Kenyan election duty bearers on the need for a peaceful, credible, and free and fair election in the country. So we expect to have that tomorrow delivered at just before lunch at 12:15. Then when we come back from lunch, there will be a council meeting where the EON will retreat in one of the rooms to have their own discussions and a meeting to be able to discuss their own affairs, including an election will be happening tomorrow. And then, of course, we'll have a concurrent session when the EON members will be retreating for their council meeting. There will also be a presentation being made by one of senior researchers at IRI called Prakar Sharma on ways of intervening to mitigate electoral violence generally. Of course, then we'll have group discussions, and then Mule will come back around 4 p.m. To be able to take us through the action points that this meeting shall have arrived at. And then we'll have an official closing of the conference by the newly elected officials of EON. So that marks the end of day 2. This is a guide. If there is need to change, if there are better additions for this agenda, please feel free. You can come to me or can come to Mule or Jessica. We can discuss the agenda with you further. So that is one. The second thing I wanted to say is that we have washrooms on our left. So when you just go like this on the left side, then again further on the left, you can find gents and ladies located there. So I think without wasting much time, I would like to invite the chairperson of ELOC, Madam Anne Ireri. Anne Ireri is the executive director of FIDA, which is Federation of Women Lawyers in Kenya, to give us welcoming remarks. Karibu, Chair. The sanitizer.
Thank you very much, Marcus. Indeed, we have to still be vigilant within the pandemic. Good morning, everyone. Good morning once again. Good morning. Great. It's good to see everyone here. Commissioner Crispin Kaheru, Chairperson of EHON. Jessica Keegan, Election Integrity Advisor, IRI. Patrick Kwak, who we'll expect to hear from during this meeting, Senior Director at IRI. James Lahai, the Chair, West African Election Observation Network. Regional participants from Uganda, Ethiopia, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, South Sudan, Burundi, Ghana, Sierra Leone, Somalia, Kenya, and beyond Africa. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair.
Welcome to this particular conference. under the theme Transnational Responses to Electoral Insecurity and Campaign Finance Monitoring. It is indeed a delight and pleasure to welcome each and every one of you who's joining us physically and virtually, and for honoring your presence, or honoring us with your presence at this particular meeting. Elections all over the world should be a celebration of fundamental human rights as enshrined in our various domestic laws and international instruments. However, the irony is that African electoral processes, particularly in this region, become a period of negative tension rather than healthy competition and citizen expression of democracy. It is encouraging, therefore, that citizen groups, such as all of you gathered here today, are constantly thinking and working to make it indeed a celebration. We are all here on the invitation of EHON, together with our partner IRI. As you are aware, is a regional network of citizen election observer groups in the East and Horn of Africa, whose members include, and I'll mention them, the Citizens Coalition for Electoral Democracy in Uganda, CCEDU, South Sudanese Network for Democracy and Elections, SSUND, South Sudan, Sudanese Group for Democracy and Elections in Sudan, the Tanzania Election Monitoring Committee, TEMCO, Kenya Human Rights Commission, KHRC, and Election Observation Group, ELOG, both based in Kenya. And by way of history, EHON was inaugurated in 2013 during a meeting in which participants from 7 Eastern African countries were represented. These countries, namely Eritrea, Ethiopia, Sudan, South Sudan, Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya, were represented by the above citizen election observer groups, keen on forming a regional network for solidarity as well as experience sharing. This regional conference being held today and tomorrow is therefore being held against the backdrop of general elections that were conducted in Tanzania in 2020, Uganda, Ethiopia, and Zambia in 2021, as well as the host country, Kenya, which is just less than 90 days away from the general elections. South Sudan indeed hopes to have the elections in 2023. This, as well as taking into context prevailing electoral environments in all other invited as a basis for peer learning and sharing. This regional meeting is therefore a good opportunity for us to reflect and to learn. As I conclude, allow me to note that African elections have witnessed a growing trend of high spending characterized by political campaigns where aspirants present themselves as a people of means capable of providing instant solutions, evidenced by dishing out money and assorted goodies to the electorates. I know that is a story that resonates with quite a number of us. This conference therefore seeks to explore the key drivers of election costs, the role of election management bodies in regulating election campaigns, as well as the cost of unregulated election campaign funding on democracy and security. So let's share our experiences and ideas. Let's learn from each other. Let's challenge and support each other during these 2 days. I particularly look forward to engage discussions, given that it is my first time as a chairperson of ELOG. Allow me to also thank in a special way our partners, IRI and ND, for your partnership and collaboration towards making this conference a reality. I'd like to conclude by a quote by one of the continent's favorite sons, that is His Excellency Kofi Annan, who stated as follows, that elections are at the heart of democracy. When conducted with integrity, they allow citizens to have a voice in how and by whom they are governed. Because while human beings need security and livelihoods, they also need freedom, dignity, and justice. Asanteni sana. Karibuni to Nairobi. Welcome. Bienvenue.
We give the chairperson of a better clap. Thank you very much, Anne, for those wonderful remarks. Before I invite Jessica to come, we have been joined by a few more delegates. We just say your name and which country or organization you represent. Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Kujo Asante. I work for the Center for Democratic Development. My name is Franklin Kwanja. I serve at the Center for Democratic Democracy. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Senkrema. I'm a consultant. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Faith Cherono, and I'm from Kenya.
Thank you. So then I'd like to invite our second speaker, that is Jessica Keegan. Jessica Keegan is Action Integrity Advisor, Center for Global Impact at IRI. Karibu, Jessica.
Thank you. Thank you, and welcome. Dear esteemed guests, IRI is delighted to support the 4th Regional eHorn Conference and Election Watch 2022 Symposium. As I mentioned earlier during our introductions, my name is Jessica Keegan. I'm the election advisor for IRI based in Washington, and it's a pleasure to be here. I was in Kenya for almost 2 years, and so this is like a second home to me, and I was just so excited to be working with eHorn and with all of you, really, whom some of you I recognize from other parts of the world. We've worked together, or our paths have crossed on other places on the continent. So it's wonderful to see you all here today. Safeguarding electoral integrity, a critical aspect of democratic systems, now more than ever merits focused attention, consensus, and coordinated approaches to thwart electoral anomalies that have the potential to disenfranchise populations, disrupt political processes, sow violence, and hinder moral institutions' ability to respond. With funding from the National Endowment for Democracy, IRI's elections practice is examining extant and emerging threats to electoral integrity and developing new frameworks for assessing the quality and conduct of elections. We are also working hand in hand to support the initiatives and ambitions of citizen observers throughout the continent, which is why we're here today. As leaders of citizen observer networks, you are the vanguards for clean elections. The importance of your work cannot be understated. And yet increasingly, there are malign actors working to disrupt your work and to undermine your credibility. And so it's important to stick together, which is why regional conferences such as this are so important for knowledge sharing and networking. General elections that have been conducted in Tanzania, Uganda, Ethiopia, and Zambia that have recently been conducted in those countries, as well as upcoming elections in Kenya in 95 days, which is very soon, South Sudan, Nigeria next year, Sierra Leone, and Zimbabwe command the need for reflection and strategic planning. We are here today in the spirit of transnational collaboration to exchange dialogue and think strategically among peers about the way we can better carry out our work as election observers. As I said, some of you I've worked with in other parts of the continent. It's a pleasure to see you all here again in Nairobi. Others whom I've not yet worked with, I look forward to getting to know you better and hope that we can continue collaboration. We hope that you find the conversations and breakout sessions helpful to you as you work toward more transparent, peaceful, and secure elections in your countries. I want to take a moment to really acknowledge and thank ELOG and EHORN, especially ELOG, Mule, Marcus, Brenda, Daisy. Some of you saw them outside, but I want to say thank you. And Ian for being right there on our IT. I also want to acknowledge and thank IRI staff, Karen Herstick, who is our Political Parties and Elections Associate, and Alvin, who works in our field office here in Kenya. So thank you, ELOG. Thank you, Anne. We are very, very much excited about this conference. We wish everybody productive discussions, and Asante Sana.
Thank you, Jessica, for those wonderful remarks. I would like us to move to the next item in our agenda. And just before I do that, for those who are joining this sort of meeting for the first time, our last year meeting took place in 2018. So this is a follow-up meeting, a subsequent meeting that we're having today. So I'd like to invite then Mule Musau, with the national coordinator. I'm sorry, forgive me for that. Yes. So before Mule comes, I'm just putting pressure on Mule to prepare. Before Mule comes, allow me then to invite the chairperson of the Eastern Horn of Africa Election Observation Observers Network. That is EHON, Mr. Crispin Kaheru, to officially commission this meeting to start. I'm sorry, Crispin.
Well, I've been invited to commission the meeting to start, and by chance, I am a commissioner, so that's really timely. The chairperson of ELOG, the representatives from IRI, the delegates from regional election observation networks, civil society election actors present here, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, both here physically and those present online. Good morning.
Good morning.
On behalf of EHON and on my own behalf, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to this fourth EHON Regional Conference. As you've been told, we last had a regional conference such as this in 2018. That was a special one. That is when I was elected to chair EHON. So this conference comes at a time when we are closing in on both the 9th year of our existence and a good opportunity to meet in person after a very long while. I want to say a special thank you to each one of you who has stood by EHON thus far. For our new members, you're welcome. ELOG, my sincere appreciation to you for your resilience resilience. And presented new and unique challenges. Lessons which I believe must jog our minds to reflect on how EHON can impact elections in our respective member countries and beyond. The lessons of civic engagement, human rights, the media, and elections, considering the demographics too, technology in elections, are some of those that probably featured quite prominently and continue to be highlighted in the new electoral environment. The impact I speak about is not just a verdict after an election. We must creatively think about how we can make a contribution to the steady growth of our electoral democracy in our respective societies. We could make a learning starting with the upcoming elections in Kenya this August and South Sudan, I think in 2023. We can no longer do business as usual. While we are at the business of reinventing ourselves, we must also think critically about how we build an enhanced capacity as a bloc, but also offer a learning platform and cushion for our member local observer groups to execute our mandate better. I'm therefore glad that at this conference, we will attempt to discuss matters electoral security and campaign finance. The growing trend and repercussions of elections for the haves and the disenfranchisement of the have-nots is very worrying. What safety nets are available for not just the electoral process in our respective countries? We need to ask ourselves deeply. What can we do about these? Looking at the political trends in our different countries, and the trends seem to be quite similar. Even amidst those trends, what opportunities do we see that we can exploit? Conversations around the gigantic issues that we are faced with are often demoralizing and could potentially push one into a retreat and watch zone. And many of us have actually ended up retreating and we're just beginning to watch. And believe that in the midst of into the direction that one of the starting points is platforms such as this one, such as EHON, where we must collectively dream and act for the good of the next generations. Some of our countries have the almost supportive legal framework that we need. What has happened to the implementation? In case of gaps, what have we done to ensure that the gaps are bridged? Do we need to do something about the civic consciousness of our people? We need to do more. Most definitely, yes. I think more than ever before, country experiences underscore the need for regional solidarity a common, resolved, and coordinated continental effort. If that's the case, then let's move in that direction collectively. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think our task is cut out for us. Enormous as it might be. I believe we can leverage constructive partnerships of equals or peers, such as EHON, to make our mark today and tomorrow. Tapping into resources in like-minded platforms, such as EHON, may also bring enormous bonuses. We must act now and fast to ensure that the electoral processes in our respective countries not only guarantee respect for the will of the people, but also be the path of growth to better democracies. I wish you purposeful deliberations. I thank you.
Thank you, Crispin Kahero, once again, is the chairperson of EHON, and is reminding us key issues that this conference will be discussing and deliberating on, and we hope to at least achieve some of those objectives that he's outlined. With that, then, Crispin, the meeting is officially commissioned as yes began. So therefore, Mule, welcome. So Mule is coming on board, as you know. Mule is the national coordinator of the Elections Observation Group, which also sits as a secretariat for the EHON. So Mule will be taking us through very quick insights into the political economy analysis of our region, which, as you know, is important for us to speak on. It gives us a context of this election that is coming up next 95 days, but also what we expect in South Sudan and our neighboring countries. Welcome, Morgan Sir.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It is a very exciting morning for me, especially because I see people, musketeers across the continent. Election musketeers. Led by James Bahai, all the way from Sierra Leone. We are well in here in the room. We have Abela from Ethiopia. We have Dr. Kojo Asante, all the way from Ghana. These are the people who cross this continent, talking about elections. And I'll leave this point to James. I know he's going to be in Nairobi again very soon, again for another assignment to help us. And it's good to see Sarah Mirete, Dr. Sarah Mirete now. and therefore a very hot political environment. And we've been on this for the last, I think, 4 years. Ever since we nullified our elections were cancelled in 2017, the country got itself in a very serious political campaign mode because of succession politics. But all is well. I mean, you've not, I'm very sure from the airport all over here and all the other people who've been around, you've not seen any stones being thrown around. I think the stones that we are throwing around are we are building roads. We are busy building roads. Hoping that part of that noise which is being made can also be able to turn out to progress in terms of development. So it's giving me a great pleasure to have all these partners who will work with over time, including Ireland, Jessica, who has also been working across the continent to support our engagement here as Nicole. I know Crispin, the outgoing chair, and Munguzi, who will also be working very closely, agree with me that 2018 being the last time that the Eastern Horn of Africa Election Observation Network met is a long time. The experience, and you'll hear it from Ellen and Peter on the SADC region, James and Dr. Kojo on the Wyong side, they've been having much more regular meetings, regional meetings, where they can be able to share experiences, they come together, they address the situation in their regions much more presently than we do here. Yes, there's been a COVID pandemic in between that last meeting and now, but it's not been very easy for our region to be able to get going. And therefore it gives us very great pleasure that we have been able to organize a meeting, albeit over time, a longer time, but we still have the opportunity to be able to converse together and even get experiences from the rest of the continent and from the rest of the spaces within the continent. I'll take you through a political economy analysis. Here, please project that. For the region, this is just setting the pace basically. I'm sure Henry and other presenters will be discussing, will be able to give a much more concise analysis of the situation within our region. And therefore, I'll just, it's basically an overview. So in terms of, in terms of the background then, and this has been discussed, first, we're all aware, of course, everybody in this room is that we're all aware that the elections are the most manifest tenets of progressive democracy. We know that elections, people must go back to the people to get elected. But we also know that despite the fact that elections are being held, and even in this region, we've been having regular elections, with a few exceptions here and there, and I'll talk about it. It has not been a real marker for democratic development and progress. So we've been having some obstacles which keep coming through. We need for elections to be acceptable, to be legitimate, they need to be held in a secure and a transparent environment. In this region, we've had, at least in the last 2 years or so, we've had 3 elections. We had one in Tanzania in 2020, and Uganda and Ethiopia, they are able to conduct it in 2021. The Ethiopian one had to be moved, isn't it? Had to be delayed for nearly a year or 2 before it was held. Part of the reason being the COVID, but part of also other issues about our own insecurity. Kenya will be having its election on 9th of August. South Sudan and Sudan are proposing to have their elections in 2023. So that, but we also know that in South Sudan, Sarah and James are here. They can be able to give us updates in terms of what the situation is there. But we know that the elections have been postponed everlastingly. It's been an everlasting issue in terms of having elections in that particular country. We have had elections within the region, and I've expanded the region beyond EHON for this purpose. But in Kenya and Malawi, we had presidential elections which were nullified. And they were nullified because of electoral irregularities and illegalities. We had the countries were had to be subjected to fresh presidential elections. That has been historic. Never before in this continent have we seen an overturning of an election result. Remember, after the 2017 elections in Kenya was nullified, that was in September 1st of 2017, I was quickly invited into Zimbabwe to go and give an update to a number of actors there on what had exactly happened in Kenya and whether Kenya was going to be okay after that. Because nobody could have imagined that a presidential election of an African president can be overturned by a court, and a court which is assumed to be appointed by the same president, you know. But then Malawi followed quickly after that. And so there's a precedent now which has been set all over that it is possible, if we're going to have problems in elections, those two examples can be cited. So Dr. Kojo and the team on the other side, there's a lot of now, I mean, I remember there was a protracted dispute of one Regonal election, I can't remember which one for 6 months. Now there's some impetus in terms of we can actually be able to discuss, or at least we can be able to agitate or petition results which are not credible in an election. So there's some steps which have been made in the right direction. But then, of course, but we have to underline that the the annulment is as a result of fraud, is as a result of illegalities and irregularities. So we are still looking at for these issues, and that's why we are observers. You need to look out for this because it costs, the cost of course, running a new election is very high. And I'll come to the issues about cost because we're talking about money today. We have two countries, actually that's the next bullet, two countries in the region. And again, I've expanded the region beyond EHOL. The DRC has just recently joined the East African community. So chances are, Henry, we are going to be asking them to come and join us in terms of EHOL for the region. But Kenya and the DRC jointly, I mean, are some of the most expensive elections in the world, not just in Africa. Kenya, the statistics are that in the last elections, the cost per voter was over $25. That's very high. If you compare even regionally, even with Uganda, however much you can be able to talk about the Ugandan election, they are fairly much better than even Kenya. DRC, where affairs is of course much worse. So again, we must ask ourselves, where is all this money going? Why do we have very expensive elections? What is this? What is the effect of that? And Henry and Tim can be able to give us some perspectives as far as it's concerned. I'm just repeating again that while we've had regular elections, apart from South Sudan and Ethiopia, where we've had delays, they have not guaranteed electoral integrity. Despite the fact that we've had regular elections within this region, it has not been a guarantee that there will be electoral integrity. Therefore, there's many issues to look at. We describe it as a very shambolic process. And I know that the situation in nearly all African countries can be exemplified by Kenya. Because where we have very strong political parties, or the zones where they are very strong, it is through their primaries that you actually get your next elected leaders. But all these primaries are being done in a very disingenuous ways. In Kenya, I mean, the big word in this party primary, for instance, was consensus building. So the leadership meets in spaces like this, and they decide who's going to become their member of parliament in all the zones in the country. And they do that for their strongest areas. They do that for all other spaces in terms of the top seats in the country. That's why there's a lot of agitation. We're part of, again, what I was telling Abera, that there's hot politics. That part of the discussion now, the biggest discussion we are having is who's going to be a running mate to the two main candidates because of those zonings. So everybody's asking, can we have somebody from so it's a boardroom decision. So where the people are supposed to participate in the franchise, discussion of who should be their leader or who they think ideally should be their leader, whether it's through the political party or through the election process, that is being taken away by what I would call an elite conspiracy of the main actors. So we're still having problems in terms of progressing in terms of the democratic gains. I've talked about delayed elections in South Sudan, in Ethiopia. There's been governmental interference in Tanzania and Uganda. I remember that in the two elections in Uganda and Tanzania, we set up what we are calling a regional watch in Nairobi, because getting information from Kampala and Sarah is here was a problem. It was not easy for us to get information on what was going on in Kampala. So we really had like a satellite, a remote station, remote observation of the processes in Kampala, and remote observation of the processes in Tanzania, because Magufuli's government refused to have election monitors. I hope that's true, Madam. Or if you explain, I remember that regional observation colleagues, that is a telco accreditation, quite a number of them. So you're having a situation where, despite the fact that we have civil society organizations, observers, citizens who want to observe their processes to at least to be able to assess the transparency of it, they are not being given the opportunity. And I would call that government interference. And then we also go to the extent of harassing the election management officials. In Kenya, over the last 2 years, we have had by-elections in the run-up to this election, which is one of our fears of the coming election. We have seen our election officials being hounded out of those polling stations by not the government, by even political party agents. So there is some level of disrespect even to the election management personnel, and that is a cause of concern. We have witnessed in the region, again, this is broadly speaking, we can be able to go to the specifics, increased securitization of electoral processes. We've seen increased use of police, use of the military personnel in our elections. This creates fear. This creates an intimidating environment. It is not where they were supposed to secure the elections, that is not happening. In Kenya, that is again one of the situations that, and I think I'm happy that we have a representative from the judiciary, it's called what? Judiciary Committee, the commandant. I think we have the commandant who's been charged with the responsibility of ensuring there's security around a police unit in Kenya, which has been established to ensure that there's security during the elections. I'm happy that we have a representative in the room, because some of the discussion that we need to have is to ensure how we can be able to ensure adequate security for the elections, and how the actors within that framework can be able to work in concert with the election management bodies to secure not only just the materials, but also the elections themselves and the people in a way that it's not overbearing. Because what we've been seeing is where the security comes to intimidate, not to secure. And then, just as a summary in terms of the regional context, is that among the major contributors, the major contributions to this is a question of money. And again, here is the expert in the house, we have Henry and others, they'll be speaking to this, as well as the continued threat of insecurity in the country. Now, just dwelling a little bit on the money, let's move to the next slide. I don't need to overemphasize the need for management of political finance. It has been cited as the biggest problem in elections across the world, money in elections. Studies which have been done by Electoral Integrity Project, they are claiming the same, that this is the biggest threat to electoral integrity, not just in Africa, but across the world. And we are also seeing that the prohibitive costs of running for office present serious challenges to participatory democracy. And these are the issues that are saying that there are reverses that we are seeing in terms of democratic progress. When in Kenya, if you want to run for a member of parliament, you need to use around $22,000, $20,000 to $25,000 to run an election, a successful election. In Uganda, I think the figures that I was seeing were even a little higher. Is it over $70,000 in Kampala, in Uganda? So it's very expensive to run an election. So of course that underlines the reason why we need to regulate the money. We don't know where these monies come from. In a region where we have terrorism, in a region where we have a lot of corruption within our governments, in a region where we have external interference even by other governments, we should be very worried about where the money to run campaigns. And we also know from statistics that the people who use more money on elections, aspirants who use more money on elections, have a greater chance of becoming the elected representatives. So should we start asking our questions, who pays the piper in all our respective countries? Because it will be then remote control from us. And then, again, I've talked about the illicit sources, that we have these illicit sources of campaign finance, and they, of course, inhibit the integrity of the election process. Public use of public resources is part of the problem that we are facing in terms of campaign finance or money in elections. It tilts the scales in favor of incumbents. We also don't have what I would call robust legal framework to address campaign financing. And that's an issue that I think we need to also be discussing in our groups. How are the rest of the areas dealing with that particular issue? And I think just move to the next slide. Next slide, Ian. Yeah. Now, on questions about electoral insecurity, just highlighting a few issues. I will run my time. I've talked about the involvement of the security personnel or security forces in regional elections. We continue to have violence, intimidation, incitement within the region. We have a new problem which is emerging, which is the digital space insecurity. I've seen Salome working I know she works in those particular spaces. She can be able to highlight some of those issues in our discussions. So the digital space is also bringing a new level of insecurity in terms of how it can be managed. We have issues about hacking. Last elections, one of the biggest issues was whether, because we had an electronic transmission of results, the question was, were they the results? Were they hacked? There is a Swahili phrase in Kenya called vifaranga vya computer, or how do you translate that in English? There? Computer chicks. Vifaranga is what? Chicks. Digital chicks. That's the process. Otherwise, you're saying that the results have been hacked by the computer. So we have aspirants or people who have won elections, but they are products of a digital, incubation process. So that's a big issue in our environment in terms of insecurity. We have seen restrictions even in terms of movement in Sudan, in Uganda, in Ethiopia over elections, and I've talked about the over-securitization of the process by especially government actors. In terms of digital space, just to highlight a few issues before I go to what I think they are the key areas or key issues of consideration. We have seen now, it was very interesting, for instance, in Uganda, to hear the president calling out for the conduct of digital campaigns. During the COVID environment, I think one of the calls was, can people be able to do their campaigns digitally? Of course, there is a positive and a negative. One of the things we were assessing from here is who owns those media spaces, who owns those digital spaces in Kampala. Chances are it's maybe the incumbents. So how do you use those spaces to freely be able to conduct your campaigns? But the fact that there was a call to use that space invites our scrutiny in terms of moving forward. Is that an area that we really want to start looking at in terms of its security? In Kenya, where we have one of the highest internet penetrations in Africa, we have seen a robust use of the digital space in terms of campaigning. Again, we have to ask ourselves about questions about security, even including data privacy issues. They're already becoming a problem. The influence of the social media and these digital spaces is also influencing government action. We have seen shutdown of access to internet. In Tanzania, the same happened. In Ethiopia, we had a month-long internet shutdown following killing of a prominent Oromo activist. While there are security issues, our question is, does that also interfere with the democratic process, and especially with the electoral processes? So those are questions, I think, for us that we need to have consider. My few considerations, which I think the conference and the meeting can be able to think through, is we know that despite all the progress that I say, we still have integrity issues and credibility issues in our elections, and therefore we need to deal with it. We need to focus on the entire electoral cycle, so we must ask ourselves questions in terms of how are we able to go through the entire cycle of elections, secure process from the issues that affect its integrity. I'm also saying that one of the other areas to consider is that we have the EMBs need to work in concert with other actors. So it's not just the EMBs alone, they need to work with civil society, they have to work with the media, they have to work with the government agencies. Elections. I think from election practice, EMBs are supposed to be the ones at the center. We're supposed to be security support is supposed to be seconded to them to be able to manage. And we need to have that as a very clear process so that they can be able to undertake the process. So that is just basically a few highlights in terms of the regional context. As I said, we're going to have a deeper dive into some of these issues when it comes to the group discussions on the specific topical and thematic areas of discussion. And then we also getting these regional perspectives to just get to hear what is doing, what is WION doing, what other experiences from beyond Africa through expert presentations, and then you can be able to maybe learn one or two things. That's the end of my presentation. I thank you for listening.
We give Mule Musao a better clap. Some context and stage for our subsequent discussion today. I would like to propose something. That we go for a 15 in which we could have a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, and we come back here at 10:30. A film for 15 minutes, I'm told. You could also walk around. Yes, if we could come back here at 10:30, then we would have the situation reports from the countries mentioned there and others that are not here. But we'll focus on the 4, that is Kenya, South Sudan, Ethiopia, and Uganda, that we have highlighted. If you have something from a country, let us know and we can include it in this agenda. So feel free, we break for 15 minutes. We get back at 10:30, if you don't mind, because of the are very long day. So tea is served, swimming pool is just right there. Feel free. Meet at 10:30.
Stream ya YouTube. Yes.
Yes,
Something that has happened too.
Sorry?
I was talking
Kuambia nitume kwa email.
refresh huko kwa system. Then